It's no
That's
different.
awesome.
You don't want to complicate it. It's a simple. I have an
Sure.
entitlement and that's what I own. I'm just selling the rest of what's left of my entitlement.
So in my case, it's a 5-year term. So I would have to buy something longer than 5 years so that I can resell whatever's left.
If you
Is that,
want, or you can buy exactly what you need. That's the beauty of this business. You can do whatever you want.
and we'll talk some more offline because I want to understand that a little better.
So, what are some of the cool tricks or techniques you've learned buying or selling a partial that, um, that could help either a seller or a buyer kind of be more interested in this idea?
Understand, what do they want? What is their need? What is their problem that you can solve? And if a partial is that solution, how can I get the numbers to where they're going to want to do the deal? So I can make it a good return for me, but I want to make sure it's a good deal for them because I do want to buy the partial. But if I know they need $25,000, I better figure out a way to get them $25,000 in hand and me to buy a part of that loan to where I still make a good return. And that's how I would approach it.
So, just for those who are, we haven't posted yet, but our next webinar is going to be strictly on the fact that these seller finance people need to see the actual numbers. We're going to break down the numbers with RMLO Mark Ross next week. But understand that Justin's been doing this for so long, and he's done a lot of partials because of where he came from in his education. But the advanced idea of knowing the fact you can buy and sell, or if you need money up front, you're going to get a cash flow. And if you sell every note you have a partial of it in 5-6 years, all of a sudden you're going to get an influx of money coming in, which is awesome. And you may need the money right now to do another deal. And all of a sudden now you didn't sell the whole note. You only sold part term, and you're going to get a bunch of money in the future. So just be knowledgeable that it may be a better deal as a seller because you're going to get more money because you're going to get the balance of the payments moving forward in 5 or 10 years. So just start running numbers. We'll show you next week about that details. Justin, when we talk about the partial versus hypothecation, we've had a webinar on it. What would you say the biggest difference between a partial and a hypothecation or borrowing against a note is?
If you want cash today and cash flow today, do a hypothecation. If you want cash today and you want cash flow in the future, then do the partial. The best way that I do it is the retirement accounts, my partial, and cash, I do hypothecations.
Gotcha. So guys out there, think about this, right? If you if you originate a note and you need, we stress this a lot because I find these seller finance people out there could take our money and go make 30, 40, 50% on our money. So take advantage of that. Don't be stuck in a spot where you don't have any capital. Sell just part of it, get some capital back up, and go do another study do or another order finance with the money you're going to get from this note that you already have, and get that payment in the future. It's super awesome. It's just about understanding the math. And there's a lot of courses out there. We've had webinars on it. I do have an advanced class on it. If you're interested, Justin teaches it too. You can reach out to all of us and say, hey, listen, I'm curious about this. But if you understand this calculator, you can take advantage of a lot of position you're already in and get cash out quickly. The biggest two things is understand the math and make sure your documentation is clean, right? You got to make sure that documentation is good and solid and that you're servicing it with a licensed servicer. If you're not, we can run into problems. We have to get that sorted up. When you work with these partials, what is the most common issues you've seen when you've tried either buying or selling that they struggle with? They struggle to understand besides the math. Is there anything that you've seen? I mean, I've seen the people wondering about the servicer part. Is it the math's the biggest one? Is there any other concerns or questions people may have?
When I'm buying the partial, it's typically because the person believes or they really do need all the cash up front. Gotcha. They want all the cash for the entire note that they can get up front because of what they need to do with the next transaction. So most people aren't able to, they're not able to do a partial on every deal, to sell a partial on every deal because they need enough capital to start doing 3 or 4 deals. Yeah. So like when I first start getting into brokering notes, I would try to broker as many as I can. And then when I build up enough cash, I would go buy a note. So then I could start building, my long-term income for myself. So I had to do a balance of both, but yeah, when you're buying it, that's usually the biggest pushback is like, why I want all the money. Why do I just want 50,000?
Mhm.
So it doesn't fit for everybody, but it is a tool like we talked about that you need to have in your tool belt ready to use for that situation to solve that problem.
Yeah. So we're going to talk off air about some kind of math stuff, but I want you guys to make sure that if you have any questions before we go crazy here, get to our final parts of this before we let Justin go, feel free to put in the chat. One of the things we run into is what are some of the cool options you've seen or tried to put into agreements that may be different than other people? Have you done anything that's a little bit strange or unique, either if you tried selling one or buying one? Have you tried anything unique at all?
I mean, nothing super fancy. I have ideas in my head that I can use. The last thing I want to do is just completely make the deal lopsided in my favor, that the other person is holding the other end of the stick. And I don't want to do a deal like that. You can do a deal like that because you can design the paper that way, but I just want to make it a good deal for everybody. So like I said before, for me, it's about control. So if I'm on the buying side of the partial or the selling side of the partial, I'm going to make sure the documentation says I'm going to handle the heavy lifting for this, and you're just going to receive the cash flow from it or a big boost of income up front. Typically it's, if I'm buying the partial and it does sell off early, I want to make sure that I just get the payments that I was buying into. So it's almost like a guarantee that I get those payments. And I'll say, if I bought 10 years of it and it sells off in year 6, I want to make sure that I get 10 years of payments. You know what I'm saying? With that interest, because I want that rate of return that I want, because that's what I banked on. And that's why I ran my numbers, and managing a fund, obviously you want to know what that predictability is. And then on the other side of the fence, I want to make sure if it sells off early and I'm on the back end of it, that, the person, wherever it sells off at, that's where you stop the entitlement schedule and they get, the UPB that they're owed for that.
Absolutely. Cool.
Awesome. So we'll give you a shout out here and a plug. You're going to be at Node Expo in 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, you're speaking at that one.
I am not speaking unless somebody asked me at the last minute, but no, I'll be observing that weekend. So
okay. Well, still, if people want to come see you in person, you'll be there, and it's a great conference. So yeah, I'll be there as well. So we'll
be in a few weeks having Bobby pass on. They'll be talking more about Node Expo. For those who are curious, in a few weeks we'll be actually having Bob on just to talk more about that. If you're curious, that'll be we'll be having him on beginning of October. And then Expos in November. So
yeah, first weekend in November. So shout out for that. Make sure you check that out as well.
Absolutely.
So we're always curious. We like to kind of finish off these interviews, these discussions with your background and experience and what you've been doing and what you've been seeing. Where do you see the note business going? Where are we headed?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but if my gut tells me don't count on a lot of non-performing loans to come through right now, I think if you have a lot of capital and you're really experienced, I think the non-performing commercial space is going to be a game changer for you next spring, next summer. We'll see what happens, but that's my anticipation. We're trying to ramp up our fund to be in that game as well. So I can see a lot of turnover happening in the commercial space pretty soon.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think seller financing is going to continue to be strong ever since after the Great Recession. It's every year it's continued to build to get stronger. Now people like us are out here educating and being ambassadors for, good documentation, good underwriting, and how to do things the right way. So people like us can buy the paper in the secondary market, and then all of us benefit from it.
Yeah,
that's a big push right now, and I think it's going to get better.
Sure.
I think so. I think, collectively we're kind of reaching a lot of people, and I think that's a big deal. And I think that's going to continue, but no, I appreciate your thoughts on that. I agree. I think non-performing commercial is not far away.
Yeah. We did have one other question before we disconnect from Andrew asking, what if an investor says they want $25K upfront and they will pay back in 60 days, give payments forward for a period? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. We're not doing the, you give me $1 today, I give you a cheeseburger Tuesday kind of thought process. It's I'm exchanging money for a period of payments. I'm not sure if that clarifies, Andrew, for you. They don't, they say they put 25 grand up front and then pay back in 60 days. I'm not sure. Andrew, if you want to clarify that, we can definitely jump on and answer
It
that.
almost sounds like a hard money loan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do anything in the note business. You said his name was Andrew.
Yeah.
You can do really anything. It's all about documentation, how you run the math, and does the deal work for Nathan and me, or Dave and Nathan, or whatever. Does the both parties involved have got to agree to? It's like buying and selling a house. The value is what they agree on. It's not what appraiser says. It's whatever they agree on.
Yeah.
As long as everybody understands it and we agree on it, you can pretty much do it.
Yeah, I will say one thing I was going to mention about what I see happening, and what I've been seeing happening is the evolution of the wholesaler is becoming more of a hybrid wholesaler now, to where they're not just a transactional wholesaler. They're understanding cash flow. So we have several wholesalers across the country that are working with us, and they're getting mentorship kind of from us on how to set things up, and they're able to figure out ways to do deals that other wholesalers can't sell because there's not enough margin in there. And so with them creating seller finance notes, they're able to do transactional deals with the complexity of a seller finance note, and having us buy them kind of at the funding table or the month after.
Gotcha.
That's something new that we've been seeing that probably past two years a lot more.
That's cool.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, wholesalers are a different animal now than they were 5-10 years ago.
Look at the margins everywhere in like the Midwest where I live in Indiana. The margins are they're just so thin, because fix and flippers, there's so much cost for them now that they're not making any money. I don't know how they're making money right now unless they're doing large projects.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Well, Justin, I appreciate you joining us on Friday afternoon.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll definitely be in touch, I'm sure. Justin has a great Facebook group. He does live feeds. Make sure you jump into there. And just reach out to him, right? Justin's been around for a long time. He's very knowledgeable. Go check him out. Say hello to him at Note Expo. And if you have any additional questions, go ahead and post it in this feed. Reach out to Justin via email. You'll see the link inside the chat, and we'll go from there. Again, we'll disconnect from the live. We appreciate everyone tuning in and asking questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time, guys.